Every year, the NBA playoffs separate the pretenders from the contenders. It's the stage where legends are born, where legacies are defined, and where underdogs have the chance to rewrite history. With the postseason tipping off on April 19th, we're just days away from the most exciting basketball of the year. But before the chase for the championship officially begins, let's dive deep into everything you need to know about the Western Conference playoff picture, a race that's been nothing short of chaotic, unpredictable, and intensely competitive. The Western Conference has been so tightly contested that the gap between the number 2 and number 8 seeds is just 5 games. That's razor thin compared to the Eastern Conference, where the number 2 seed has a commanding 21-game lead over the number 8 seed. The battle for positioning in the West is far from settled, and every game down the stretch carries significant weight. The race for the number 3 seed is especially intriguing, likely coming down to the Lakers and Nuggets, though the Clippers, Warriors, and Timberwolves are still in play and capable of making noise. Shout out to the bottom half of the West bracket for keeping April regular season basketball meaningful, even when some teams are usually coasting by this point. At the number 8 spot sit the Memphis Grizzlies with a 46-32 record. Their recent form hasn't been promising. They've gone 3-7 in their last 10 games and have slipped from the 5th seed to the 8th in just over a week. That's a worrying trend for a team that was once considered a lock for a top 4 finish. Meanwhile, the Minnesota Timberwolves, also at 46-32, have gone 7-3 in their last 10 and are trending upward at the perfect time. They're currently the number 7 seed, just outside the guaranteed playoff spots, but knocking on the door. The Golden State Warriors, also 46-32, are the number 6 seed and have matched Minnesota's 7-3 run over their last 10 games. They're hanging on to that spot by the slimmest of margins. The Clippers, currently the 5th seed, have also posted a 46-32 record, but have the hottest streak among this group, 8-2 in their last 10 games. This late-season surge could give them the momentum they need to rise even higher. Meanwhile, the Denver Nuggets have hit a rough patch, going 3-7 in their last 10, with losses to both the Wolves and Spurs. Just 10 days ago, they looked ready to lock up the number 2 seed, but now they're fighting just to stay in the top 4 and secure home court advantage in the opening round. The Lakers have stabilized at 48-30, going 5-5 in their last 10, and with LeBron James back in action, they've built a slim cushion over the Nuggets. If they finish strong, they might just hold on to that number 3 seed. Above them, the Houston Rockets have turned heads by locking in the number 2 seed with a 3.5 game lead over the rest of the field. Their recent 8-2 stretch has solidified their position, and in the competitive West, that kind of breathing room is rare. And then there's the Oklahoma City Thunder, at the top, dominant and sitting comfortably with a 64-4 record, having gone 8-2 in their last 10. They're not just trying to maintain the number 1 seed. They're trying to lock up home court advantage throughout the entire postseason. Let's take a closer look at these teams, starting from the bottom of the bracket. The Memphis Grizzlies might be clinging to a play-in spot, but their recent decisions paint a picture of chaos. Despite being in the playoff hunt, they fired their winningest head coach in franchise history, along with a top assistant, an architect of their innovative motion offense that famously avoids traditional ball screens and handoffs. That may sound like jargon, but these elements are foundational in most modern NBA offenses. Memphis zagged while the rest of the league zigged, running the fewest on-ball screens and handoffs since tracking began over a decade ago. That unconventional approach has made them unique, but also vulnerable. Despite their struggles, Memphis still ranks top 6 in offensive rating, just outside the top 10 in defense, and leads the league in pace. But high pace only works if your best players are healthy and effective. Ja Morant has been inconsistent and banged up. Desmond Bane hasn't found his usual rhythm, and while Jaren Jackson Jr. remains a defensive force, it hasn't been enough to keep them afloat. Their dysfunction has spilled over onto the court, with visible frustration, defensive lapses, and even sideline shouting matches. A team that held the number 2 seed just weeks ago has gone 10-14 since late February, most of those wins coming against lottery-bound teams. Unless something changes fast, this looks like a team destined for a quick postseason exit. The Timberwolves, on the other hand, look like a team finding their stride. They're currently 7th, but they've got a real shot at skipping the play-in entirely. 4 of their last 7 games are against the tanking Brooklyn Nets, Utah Jazz, and Philadelphia 76ers. This team is built on defense, anchored by Rudy Gobert and a cadre of aggressive perimeter defenders. Offensively, it's still a work in progress. Trading Karl-Anthony Towns for Julius Randle changed their identity. Randle's ball dominance and lack of spacing has occasionally clogged the floor. But with Anthony Edwards continuing to rise as a legitimate two-way star, Minnesota could pose problems for any opponent in a best-of-7 series. Now to the Warriors, revitalized and more dangerous than they've been all season. The acquisition of Jimmy Butler has been a game-changer. Finally, Stephen Curry has a second playmaker to ease the offensive burden. With Butler on the floor, the Warriors post a 121.7 offensive rating, which would rank second in the league. Their defensive rating with him is 111, placing them in the top 5. Sure, sample size caveats apply, but with Butler, Curry, Draymond Green, and coach Steve Kerr all playoff tested, Golden State looks like a real threat. Playoff Jimmy is real, and this team knows how to flip the switch when it matters most. The Clippers have perhaps been the biggest surprise. Even after losing Paul George in free agency and missing Kawhi Leonard early on, they've surged behind a rejuvenated James Harden, a breakout season from Norman Powell, and strong interior play from Ivica Zubac. Now, Kawhi is back, playing elite basketball, averaging 26 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists while shooting over 54% from the field and an incredible 45.5% from 3. His health has always been a question mark, but if he stays upright, this team has the tools, coaching, and experience to go deep. They're in a weird spot. After climbing back to the top of the standings mid-season, the Nuggets have cooled off dramatically. Nikola Jokic is still playing at an MVP level, averaging a triple-double and posting career highs across multiple categories, including three-point shooting and steals. But the supporting cast hasn't held up. Jamal Murray has been in and out of the lineup, and while Michael Porter Jr. remains a scoring threat, his defense has been inconsistent. Denver holds a losing record, 14-21, against teams above .500, a concerning stat for a defending champion. Unless Jokic goes supernova again, a repeat looks like a long shot. Then there are the Lakers. With LeBron James back and healthy, along with Rui Hachimura, the team looks dangerous. New head coach J.J. Redick has emphasized urgency, not rest, to close out the season strong. The Lakers have performed well against top teams, posting a 20-16 record against opponents above .500. Doncic, who's found his form after a slow start, is averaging 26.6 points, nearly 7 rebounds, and 7.4 assists over his last 5 games. Austin Reeves has continued to thrive, building great chemistry with Doncic in LeBron's absence, and now flourishing as arguably the best third option in the league. But the real question, can their stars hold up defensively when teams start hunting mismatches in a playoff series? The Houston Rockets have been this season's breakout story. With one of the youngest rosters in the league, they've managed to rack up over 50 wins and hold the number 2 seed. Their defense ranks in the top 4, thanks to a balanced roster featuring defensive stoppers like Amen Thompson, Tari Eason, Jabari Smith Jr., and even the ever-annoying Dylan Brooks. Offensively, they're middle of the pack. Jalen Green remains inconsistent, capable of scoring 31 night and getting benched the next. But their team effort, rebounding dominance, and discipline in transition defense have helped them steal wins and grind through close games. Inexperience might cap their ceiling, but they'll be a nightmare to face in the first round. Finally, the Thunder. They've been in first place since early in the season, and they've earned every bit of it. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the engine, leading the league in scoring at 32.6 points per game and anchoring the most efficient defense in the NBA. OKC's core, Shai, Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, and Lou Dort, is versatile, relentless, and battle-tested after last year's play-in push. Their net rating is historically elite, second only to the legendary 1995-96 Bulls. They're deep, well-coached, and smartly built, with offseason additions like Alex Caruso and Isaiah Hartenstein rounding out the roster perfectly. At this point, it's not a question of whether they're for real, it's a question of whether anyone can stop them. So, who's your pick to come out of the West? Can a lower seed pull off a deep run? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more in-depth basketball stories and playoff analysis.